Hey, hey.
Hey, how's my video looking? I switched computers.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's really cool.
It's good?
Yeah, you can hear me and see me all good.
Yes.
I
Yep.
know, I know I'm terribly ugly to look at this time of the afternoon, but that's all right.
Not at all. Not any worse than you.
Alrighty, take us for a bit of a wander down Laurel Canyon, man.
All right, I guess I was telling you about our ages, how I'm the oldest of the band, and I'm 28, and that the youngest is 24, which is Serge. And yeah, I met him when I was 24, and I had just left a couple bands, it wasn't working out. Um, and so I just started a band with Serge. He was 20 and I was 24. And then, you know, 2 years of writing songs. And then in the last 2 years, we started to put out singles. So by the time, our first album came out, Serge was the age that I was when I met him. And so, yeah. So I'm 28. Serge is 24. Lachlan, our new drummer, is 25. And Dylan, our bassist, is 26. And you wouldn't know it from the looks of it, but Dylan and Serge are cousins by marriage, or like a step cousins.
Cool.
So it's kind of like a family
That's pretty
affair.
wild. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Right. And so you just did Rockaway Beach on the weekend. We are talking about that. Tell us all about that,
yeah.
man.
Oh, it was great. A fashion designer set it up or booked us for this gig at Rockaway Beach Amphitheater, which is outdoors. So we were really loud, and I think people could hear us like from miles away down the beach, and kind of were gathering from the boardwalk to check us out. So we had a pretty big crowd, and it was a good gig. It was a good gig. We were drinking pina coladas like for hours before, so we were kind of messed up.
That sounds
But
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet you the beaches, I was just going to say over there, are a little different to our beaches.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. We were there. We went late at night too, and some fisherman was there, and he caught this like shark, like a tiny shark, but shark infested waters at Rockaway Beach.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sure that's something that our beaches might have in common.
Did you guys get in on the shark action? Did you wander down there and
We
check
were,
it out?
yeah, yeah. We brought one friend from our hometown, and he was holding it by the tail, like
Unreal.
at 1 in the morning, holding a shark flailing around. He actually was great with the shark, and the shark totally calmed down. It
Yeah.
was like he was one with the
He's
ocean or
one with the
something.
ocean. He was the
Yeah,
shark boy, the
he
shark
was
man.
Aquaman.
He's
Yeah, Aquaman.
Aquaman. um,
Um,
yeah, so talk to us about the record, man, and Agitated and how you got onto that. And like for all the guys over here, like I said, there's only like a handful of stores that are carrying the record, which is criminal because it's an absolute cracker. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, no, man, and the Dropout single is unreal, and obviously I know you guys get sort of. I guess pigeonholed a little bit into that whole grunge thing, but
Yeah,
I just hear so much stuff going on, like heaps of classic Aussie stuff and Stooges influence and that. So yeah, it rocks.
yeah. I think the next album will totally be less grunge, more just straight punk. I think we were totally influenced by grunge when we first picked up distortion pedals. Um, we just wanted to make something really heavy, and grunge was just like a great, you know, point of reference. So we were listening to a lot of grunge when we were writing our first songs. But since, we started out with just classic punk. And so we're trying to get back to that a little bit. I agree that it's not really just grunge. But yeah, I think it started with us, wanting to make something harder, wanting to have a new producer from our first two singles. Um, our album is produced by two guys who are both great, Bryce and Steve Albini. And with Steve Albini, we we just hit him up, hit his studio up, and he's like a really working man's type of guy where he doesn't want to hear any demos. He just wants you to book the time, and if he likes it, he'll have you back again. But he'll really record anyone. So it's kind of amazing So we booked that like 6 months in advance, and we did it. And once we did that, we also were looking for an artist to do our EP. And so the artist that did Big Black's Headache is this guy, Savage Pencil. He's British. He's an older gentleman, kind of looks like a wizard. And yeah, we hit him up on Instagram, and I guess his manager replied to us and said, sure, we're interested. And we got in this great relationship with Savage Pencil. So let me see if I have. He did this Big Black cover.
Yeah, awesome. That's right.
And we just were thinking, like, we want to work with people. Let's see if anyone wants to work with us that we like really admire. And from like the 80s noise rock scene, you'd be surprised, some of these guys are still underground to this day and are willing to respond to young bands and everything. So we got into this great relationship with his manager, Al, who lives in San Francisco and does print, for Savage Pencil's artwork, on T-shirts and posters and stuff. And we even played 2 shows in San Francisco. Like, you can see the posters he made here.
Oh, unreal.
Yeah.
They look great.
And so it was through Al, Savage Pencil's manager, that we got in touch with Agitated, which is also a British label run by this guy, Simon Keeler, who's just amazing and runs a distribution company that distributes for Third Man Records and In the Red, like Ty Segal's former label. So we were stoked. And yeah, we're amazed that it's even out in any record stores in Australia. And it's been doing great. So yeah, he said he was interested in putting out the album. We had it all recorded. We paid for it all ourselves, but the label came in and helped us with mastering and artwork costs. And yeah, so I think we recorded the album like a year ago, and then it came out just a couple months ago. And so our live set consists like half of completely new songs that aren't on the album because we recorded it a year ago and we kind of write fast.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, we're excited to do the next one, but probably won't be for a couple months because we kind of need to keep promoting this first one, even if we're tired of it.
Yeah, sure. So did he do the Dropout single cover as well, or is that a different artist?
Yeah. Yes. No, it was the Victim EP cover, and then he did the Dropout.
Oh, look, I need one of those for sure. There's a gap.
Right.
There's a gap in my singles collection for that for sure.
You gotta see this special one. It's like really limited, but it's if you can look close, it's on acid blotter sheet.
Oh, that's unreal.
I think there's only a handful of these made, and
will it get me high though? Is it if I rip off one of the blotter sheets?
yeah, if you touch it, if you pull out the record, you're gonna be tripping.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's killer, man. No, I mean, look, it's so great that you're able to get Steve involved, and that whole DIY thing really comes across in the record too. It's extremely primal, and it's exciting to think what you guys are going to be doing down the track as well. Because whilst like you do get like put into that grunge thing, I think like there's so much you can tell from the songwriting that there's a lot of, like on the horizon for you guys as far as what your sound's going to be like. And I could tell like there's, like I said, there's a little bit of Sonic Youth in there and some Stooges stuff and even old Albini stuff, Shellac and Big Black and all that kind of shit. Like,
yeah.
It all comes through on the record. So what's he like? Give us the guff on the great man.
Yeah. So, we drove to Chicago. We drove like 12 hours, and we immediately when we got there, we got deep dish pizza from Chicago, which we were freaked out about. It was so good.
Of course, you have to, right?
He's a big foodie. He's like written food guides for Chicago for like this Anthony Bourdain book and everything. We were talking to him about it, but yeah. So we get there. And his studio, it's kind of like the American Abbey Road or something. It's gorgeous, like wood paneled, and he just gets there in his like jumpsuit his like one piece engineered jumpsuit. And yeah, I was trying hard not to like freak out. I might have asked him to like sign my record right away, and he was like, "Just wait till we're done." But
That's awesome.
so he wants you to write down all the instruments that are going to be on the song, so he can decide how many tracks it's going to be, like 18 track or 24 track or something like that. And I think he liked us because we were very just straightforward. We're like 2 guitars, 2 vocals, a bass, and drums, and that's it. No tambourine, no sitar or anything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, we were like testing out the sound and everything. We had a twin reverb, a Marshall stack. He had a great bass amp, great drums. And then he was like, all right, let me set up for a bit. You guys can go have lunch. We walked to Portillo's and got Chicago hot dogs, which is another great staple of Chicago. Came back, recorded each song in 2 takes. We did vocal overdubs and guitar solo overdubs, and that was the only overdubs that we had. And then kind of like by the end of a work day, we were done. He was just mixing it right there on the spot. It was amazing and it's like when Steve Albini produces your record, you don't feel the need to be like, could we get the drums louder, or could we get, you don't want to change anything that Steve Albini is doing. You know what I mean? You feel very satisfied with the mix.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you couldn't get, if you're into punk rock, you can't really get a better producer. It's hard to think of like a better producer you'd want than Steve Albini. So we had the songs. He ripped them on a CD and gave us like a big box of master tapes. I haven't really checked them out. And you have to send it, to someone that can actually like master analog tape. So we had to send it to California. Yeah, we did everything really quick, and I think that's what he liked about it. We did a cover song. We did 3 songs, and one of them was a cover song by kind of an obscure punk band. And he was like, oh, this is the 4th Fang cover I've recorded. So, I don't know. Everything we were doing was right up his alley. And he said, I really enjoyed you guys. You were fun to work with, and you're invited back. So we got the green light to come back.
Fuck, that's cool. That's totally cool.
Yeah, and some producers will try to be like, well, how about this lyric? They'll try to shape your whole artistic.
Yeah, totally.
And
yeah.
he's so not interested in that. You'd never ask him like, well, should we do? The only thing you really ask him is like, was this take better than the other take? And then when Steve Albini says, oh, this take has a little bit more groove, you're not really going to argue with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he would help us pick out, which take was good, or if the tempo was right or something like that. But it's all very utilitarian, and he's not trying to shape you in any way.
I don't think compromise is in his vocabulary. I don't think he's...
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out Bryce Goggin, the other producer. He produced the bulk of our album in New York, in Brooklyn. And he is an amazing producer. He works with this young grunge band, Hello Mary, which are all girls, and they're fantastic. They kind of were the band that we heard their production, and we were like, wow, this sounds harder than the 2 songs we released. And none of those are on the album, our first 2 singles. It's kind of a different, more 60s rock sound. But we were just like, oh, these girls are showing us up. We got to check out who their producer is. And so that's how we got on with Bryce in Brooklyn. And he's worked with Pavement, the Lemonheads, some great bands. So
yeah, that's unreal.
It's been an honor to work with both Bryce and Steve, and they did such a good job on the album. You don't really notice too much that there's 2 different producers and 2 different studios, which I think is just a testament to both of them.
Absolutely, and testament to you guys for like networking and getting involved with all that kind of stuff. And again, I think a lot of those people that you're working with will appreciate like your work ethic and your vision and the way you guys want to sound. Like I said, I heard the record just walking into a store, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This sounds unreal!" Like,
Really,
so
they were playing it in the store.
yeah, totally, yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, obviously you guys are fans of records and stuff yourself. What do you know about like Aussie stuff? Have you got any Aussie bands that you're digging, or even some bands from over your way? Like, tell us a bit about some of the bands that you've been doing shows with.
Some Aussie bands. The Saints are incredible.
Okay, let me just.
The Saints. Yes, I was singing. I was laying on the beach singing "Stranded" last night. I love them. They're so cool.
It's great.
Is Nick Cave? Is he Australian?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's debatable these days, isn't it? Right, but it's Nick Cave, so
That's a huge one. I think after our first record was done, one day I went over to Serge's house. How cool the birthday party was, and Nick Cave, and I was like, man, we need to make some more music. We need to start writing, inspired by this band, and this gothic kind of, this southern gothic preaching, this where the shows are like a religious experience. That's what I was reading about the birthday party, and I don't know, I picked up one of their records in LA. So I was just going through this phase, and we totally wrote a couple songs that's in our set now, that kind of birthday party influence. So I'm excited to get one of those recorded.
I can
Yeah, we were just like jamming in the basement, and our guitar amps weren't down there. So me and Serge each just took a microphone while our bassist and drummer were playing, and we were just started screaming and hollering, and ended up sounding like the birthday party.
I think I can definitely hear some birthday party in Laurel Canyon sound for sure, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
What
yeah,
else? I like the Chats. Their new band.
yes,
From
yeah,
They're incredible. I would love to open up for them.
yeah. Going for a smoko,
Yes,
smoko.
they're hilarious. They're hilarious. I just like that kind of Ramones sound. I
Yeah,
like that they just like that. That gets me.
yeah,
That
cool.
turns me on.
They're totally
Um,
cool. They're doing really well down here, actually. So for any Aussie promoters, get them down here and get them to play with the chats for sure. That'd be
let me
unreal.
see. Yeah, and just there's so much good music.
Yeah, I know that's cool. And
What
what?
name some of your favorites? Let me see if maybe I don't even know they're Australian sometimes.
Well, there's a new record out by a local dude called TV Repairman.
Mm.
He's put together. There's a lot of really cool little underground labels that are doing some great stuff. But the classic stuff, the Saints, I can hear that in your guys' music. The Radio Birdman, the New Christs, stuff
Mm.
like that. Some of the newer bands that are getting around. Oh God, where do I start? There's heaps. Far out. There's so many. I mean, you guys would do really. I think you guys would be great with the chats.
Oh,
But even,
incredible.
but even, I'm thinking bigger. I'm thinking you guys need to like headline Meredith Festival or something like that. You do unreal at that. You
That would
rem-
be amazing. What's up?
you remind me a lot of another bands that were kicking around a little while ago called Eddie Current Suppression Ring. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
Mm-mm.
But they're really cool as well. Like, yeah, totally raw, really garagey. So, yeah, with that sort of punk undertone and ethic as well. So, I think, yeah, it'd be great to have you down here. I think the Aussie guys down here, particularly in some of those sort of mid-level size venues, would gravitate towards your guys' sound. Yeah,
Yeah,
they'd love it. They'd love it. You know.
fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah, I think between the Saints and Nick Cave, you're sorted. Great bands.
What about if I'll just text Warren Ellis and we'll get Grindman to do another show and we'll get you guys on that bill? How would that be? There's got to be something
Oh,
that we could do.
we would freak out. We would freak out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And what about like, tell us a bit about sort of the shows that you've got coming up, or the bands that are potentially like on your label, or that you guys are really digging. Like you mentioned that girl group before.
Yeah, Hello Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to shout out brother band Catatonic Sons. They're from the same town in Pennsylvania as us, Allentown, and they're also on Agitated Records. When our label signed us, they kind of was. I guess I like to think of like the Stooges and MC5, like when bands come as like a
Yeah.
package deal. But yeah, they signed Catatonic Sons as well. Their record's coming out in September, and then I think we're trying to.
They're like baby Wayne Kramers, are they? They're like baby Wayne Kramers.
Yeah. We'll call them baby because they're really young. They're like 21.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're incredible. They're a bit more on like the psychedelic shoegaze, but also really hard and punk and grunge, and just great songwriting. And the lead guy Patrick is like one of me and Serge's best friends. Like we're kind of just the three musketeers around town, really, and people kind of always think we're all in a band together.
Yeah, cool.
It's two bands.
Catatonic Sons, is it? Catatonic Sons? I'll write that down.
Yeah, Catatonic Sons. Yeah, so they're on Agitated as well, and yeah, there's tons of bands that we're friends with. It'd be tough to name them all right now, but
that's all right. Actually, another band. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Another band I just thought of, who are doing really great things. A band called Civic, who are unreal. Yeah, you guys should check those out. In fact, we really need to, guys. We need to get Laurel Canyon and Civic to do a national tour. That's what we're going to work on.
Australia.
It'd be killer.
Oh man. Oh man.
You
Make it happen.
You got
so down.
You got to check out their new record. Actually, even their first one, or Future Forecast, is a banger as well. I think you'd really dig it. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, you got to write these band names down for me. I'm looking for some new bands to listen to all the time. So
yeah, cool. So okay, so you got another invite from Albini. Where do you go from here? Do you just keep writing? Do you just like give him? Do you just shoot him a text and go, "Steve, we're ready to go"? How does it work from here? I'm all excited now, man. New tunes.
That's a good question. We're ready to go. With Steve, I think you do have to like book really in advance. You know, he's a sought after producer. I don't know. Yeah, like record 2, just with Steve and Bryce again. Who knows? We're kind of thinking if we should try a different studio or a different producer, just keep going with the same guys. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
Where we have so much written, we have so much ready, but I just don't know. There's no plans yet to record because we just made our first music video, for example, and we're still just trying to get more out of our first album because we put so much work into it.